We'd like to thank our formal partner, Payzant Building Products. Payzant has a 60,000 square foot facilitation center currently underway, as well as acquired a new location in Windsor. Lots of change and big news with Payzant, and we look forward to having them back on the podcast in the near future. We'd like to thank our co-branded partner, Procore Technologies. Procore Technologies is the global leader in construction management software. We look forward to having many guests from across the country from all different capacities under the Procore partnership umbrella. Luminous Labs is the leading provider of architectural visualizations for developers, homeowners, architects, and more. Luminous Labs has a team of experienced designers and visualizers using cutting-edge technology to bring your 3D renderings to life. Using these architectural visualizations will give you a sense of scale, space, and design, allowing you to make informed decisions about your projects before construction even begins. These high-end architectural visualizations are a perfect tool for presentations, marketing materials, and design reviews, allowing you to communicate your vision to stakeholders, clients, and more. Okay, welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. Very pleased to have our guest today, Amin Tran, from Vancouver, British Columbia. Amin is a partner with GWD Partners, and thank you for coming in today. I know we were talking earlier, and your wife is from Eastern Passage, is that right?
Yeah, she's from the Passage. So like most Maritimers, she left shortly after university in pursuit of opportunities and careers out west, and intended to be only 6 months, ended up being about 20 years.
Yeah.
And along the way we met, and she fished me back here. So I'm happy to be in Nova Scotia.
Awesome. You mentioned, and we were chatting there, you have kind of a unique transition into the construction space from a retail background. Maybe not so unique. Lots of people use their sales skills and people skills to move into any number of spaces in construction. But maybe just tell us a little bit about that transition and what you were, your background.
Yeah, there's a lot of soft skills that can be transferred from industry to industry, right? Whether it's retail, hospitality, over to construction, etc. For me, it started in the great year of 1989. That was the year my beloved Calgary Flames won the cup, and it will be the only year they ever win it.
I got to stop you right there. That was a good year, right?
That
Fleury,
was a good year.
Neuendijk. Who else was on the team that year?
Hawk and Lou.
Was Lanny McDonald still playing?
Yeah,
No.
Lanny McDonald's there. Jim Poplinski.
Who was captain?
I can't remember who else was on there.
Mike Vernon. It might have been Neuendijk.
Joe Neuendijk. You're right. Number 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dana Merzen.
Who was the goalie? Remember?
Sorry. Mike Vernon.
Oh yeah, you just said
Vernon?
that. Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, those are the glory days. Just the latter part of the '80s with the.
Yeah, between all the original Battle of Alberta, when you had Messier, Tikkanen, Grant Fuhr, Gretzky, all those guys.
Unreal.
It's a different time now that we're reminiscing.
Yeah.
But
did you get to any of the games? Were you there? Or were you out living out?
Yeah, young enough. Back when I was in college there, right? I actually worked in the Calgary Flames Upper Auditorium as a bartender. So I got to meet some of the players' wives and stuff. And,
That's awesome.
Knew who tipped and who...
who tipped big,
yeah,
who didn't.
and then who had some of their dirty laundry. It was pretty neat.
That's awesome.
Being a young man at the time, so it was great.
Awesome.
But 1989 was a year. It was special. That was a year I picked up my first glass cutting tool. So sort of following my dad into the glass trade, he worked at a small glass shop in Calgary.
Right.
And I would go there on the evenings and weekends and help sweep, help do things, grab them coffee, clean their tools, that kind of stuff.
And just for our listeners, like when you say glass shop, you mean like a glass manufacturing shop? You was an installer as well, or?
No, just a small little local glass shop, one that you'd go there to get, like, say, your window repaired, your windshield, you bring it in a picture frame.
Yeah.
Back then, when it was very much still a trade and a craft.
Yeah.
Today, glazing is defined a lot different, right? It's associated more with building envelope and construction, but a glazer back then, you're doing everything to do with glass.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I first got started, and I guess my first real taste into a trade or construction.
Mm-hmm.
Like most immigrant kids, I guess, mom and dad said, go to university, go get yourself a career, go climb a corporate ladder. So that's sort of where I was encouraged to go. Long story short, after
do you mean you were pressured by your parents to do that, or that was kind of?
It's kind of what they knew. It's all they knew, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's because they never had the opportunity, so they thought, hey, this is the golden ticket on how you're going to make it in life if you could get it.
Not that it's a bad thing if there was a bit of pressure, right? It's a good pressure.
Exactly. It's not a bad thing either. But I ended up not doing really well in school in high school and ended up dropping out in grade 11.
Mm-hmm.
Did a couple of years of things working in the trade, working in construction.
Mostly because school wasn't your thing. It was
was never my thing.
Sitting there in a classroom, just not your way of learning.
Yeah, no, I just thought there was other ways to go out there and make money, right? While my friends and stuff are, starting off working at McDonald's or wherever, right? And nothing wrong with that. I was in a glass shop making more money than them, learning what I thought was a pretty cool trade and being able to use my hands. Yeah. So that was sort of my first love and introduction into the industry. I would take a couple of years off, and one day I decided to go back to SAIT, and I took the it was called Pre-Careers Transition Program, where if you didn't have your high school diploma, you can take these like a bridging program so that you can actually go into one of their qualified trades.
Right.
So I signed up to there, went into industrial engineering, didn't quite finish there either, made it to 3 semesters, 1.9 GPA. So again, I wasn't meant for school, but.
Was that a battle for you? Like, as far as the fact that, obviously you're somebody who's done well for yourself, but was there a time where it's like, that the fact that school wasn't for you and, you probably had a lot more on the entrepreneurial side and vision side and those kind of things and building relationships and obviously intelligent to do so. But like the fact that you didn't do well in school, is that something you had to kind of you had to get over or no?
It sort of was at the time when you listen to those around.
So many people are telling you like
that's the way this is,
if you get a 1.9 GPA, it's sort of saying like you're not smart enough, but you're not smart enough to get a higher GPA in this program and the way it's structured, right? It doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of being funneled through a process, right? And things don't make sense until you look back down the road, right? Yeah. After you've gone through certain things, I guess you look back and like Steve Jobs said, you only then you know to connect the dots. So looking back, the reason why I wasn't meant for school and the corporate environment, which I'll get to in a bit, is I guess I was never meant for rigidity or to follow a path. I was meant to go find my own. Yeah. So sometimes it got me into trouble. Sometimes it turned out well, and the adventure still continues. So I didn't finish the industrial engineering program, but there was a presentation we had to do back in the industry. And this is kind of weird because I had missed school quite a bit. I got stuck with these 2 guys for our presentation, and they thought they got stuck with me. The 2 guys were actually pretty good at analyzing and compiling data, but they didn't want to speak in front of the class. So I volunteered to speak in front of the class, and it was also presented to industry. And so right off of that, that's where I got my first job. So about 48 hours later, one of the gentlemen in the industry, in the panel there, came out and offered me an interview, and a few days later he hired me, and I stuck with it, and I never went back to school. And then I sort of followed my career through him for a little bit. So.
And they thought they got stuck with you.
Yeah, they thought they got. Funny enough, we still keep in touch today, though. So.
Yeah, oh, that's great. That's great. No, that's a great story. Kind of sums it up right there, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So from there, I mean, you want, you learned a lot about over your, the course of your career, just about, life and business not being mutually exclusive. And that kind of ties into, business development and the sales side of things and the entrepreneurial, unique path you got to carve out for yourself. Right. It's, because you came from retail and, now you're in construction and different things and building envelope, scopes and that kind of stuff, Div 7 to 9, those kind of things. But, when you're really selling yourself, you're always selling yourself. It doesn't matter if it's material labor, supplying this or that, or selling shoes. In a sense, like you are who people meet. And if you're somebody that, they want to talk to again, then you can sell anything, I guess, in a sense.
You should be comfortable and confident with yourself to be where you are in business and in your personal life, right? That should be the same person, the same character. Like, yes, there's certain things that you gear up for an environment, like, if you're going to a formal business event, okay, of course, you gotta dress up, or there's certain etiquettes, right? But overall, as a character, you are who you are, right? You shouldn't hide it. But all that stuff about confidence and self-assurance and responsibility, that sort of begins at an early age.
Yeah.
And that's like a long run conversation. The years that I was in retail earlier, I spent at Walmart for about 4 years, and I eventually became a district manager for them. But one of the most fulfilling part of the job that I enjoyed, right, was doing store orientations for new hires. And it was a job that other managers would pawn off on each other, because they had it in their head that you're going to do orientation for this group of 10 people or 20 people or whatever it is, right? Knowing that only 3 of those 10 are going to stay. It's just the natural attrition in retail and the turnover. And Walmart, like a lot of companies, it's a great company, but it's very corporate, very process-driven, systemized. And so you watch the corporate mantra, you watch the videos, and it kind of lays you through the history and et cetera. You're trying to get these kids to buy in. And I say kids because most of them were young that are applying to be cashiers and stockmen, et cetera, right? But my
So essentially, you're kind of coaching. You're kind of
well, that's what they call
using
it
your
too.
intuition to see who might be good fit for a role. And
Yeah, and they always said, don't call yourself a manager. You're the leader. You're the coach, whatever, right? Like, okay, fine. Some of it is rhetoric, but there's a lot of merit to it. And I always took the approach of, we'll watch the video together. I'll ask the room, what do you guys think? And they'll sort of nod. I go, no, what do you guys really think? And then somebody will finally say, well, that's sort of cheesy, or it's
you
a
had
bit
to get
much.
it out of them, right?
Yep.
In order to answer truthfully.
And then
push.
Exactly. Then I'll close up the book and I say, great. Now that we got that out of the air, you guys are here for a job, and we need team members. We need associates to help us through the Christmas season or through whatever it is, right? I do not expect you guys to be here for the rest of your life. And in fact, if you guys are here for the rest of your life, I hope you either advance in your career or do something different in the company, or whatever, right? But if you're still in the same position years from now, you haven't grown as a person. So what I expect from you are these things right here, right? You come to work, you show up, your work ethic, you put in the extra hour, you look clean, you look presented, you're friendly, all that stuff, right? The pep talk. What you can get out of me is personally, not just from the company, is number one, you're going to get organization. Number two, you're going to get discipline. And the third is you're going to get salesmanship skills. Skills you're going to take with you everywhere you go throughout life. You're going to sell something to your wife or your significant other. You're going to have to sell an idea. You're going to have to sell a business plan one day. You may end up selling products, door to door online. Life is about sales. So that's always served me well, just being authentic with people and telling them the straight goods. So.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. There's so many different things that'd be interesting to dive into there. But let's maybe, as far as this industry, ICI Construction, you started off in 2017, the small glass company, and
yep,
kind of moved along from there. Maybe you could just kind of start at that point and just kind of give us an idea of kind of where you're at.
So we moved to Nova Scotia in 2017 after much consideration, and my wife had this dream in her head that we're gonna farm, we're gonna live organic off the land, and of course we weren't farmers, and that didn't happen. So I thought, well, let's start a glass shop. That was sort of my first love. I'm no longer in the corporate world. I can do whatever I want now. And I realized there was definitely
like father, like son.
Sort of going down that road. And I found that there was a void in the marketplace as far as service. Now, if you ask any company out there in any industry, why them? They always say it's service. We're service orientated. We care about our customers. There's not a company that says we're going to intentionally provide crappy service. So it's kind of like a cop-out, and it becomes like a generalized mantra. Service has to be defined, though. There's a process and behavior to it. So let's say you're in a restaurant, right? Yes, it's service, but the service has to be defined as far as certain KPIs. So let's say the restaurant I went to yesterday it was actually really good service there. How long did you wait before somebody greeted you? How long was it before they took you to the table? What was the time between the server to take your order? When the servers was there, right? Did they read the specials that were on for the day? Did they recommend a drink? Did they recommend an additional shot for your Caesar? All these things are what service is, right? But it has to be measured. It's got to be put in behaviors and processes in place. I picked this up. I remember going to a restaurant, and she had taken us to the table. And the table had it was more of a kid's restaurant, but it had a craft paper on there. And she took a crayon out there and wrote a number. So when the waitress finally came by, I said, hey, what's that number about? She goes, oh, that's the track so that from the time that you were in to now, it's got to be within 2 minutes before I come back and offer you your drink. I said, okay, see, that's how you measure service. So in construction, you can say service all you want, but what does it mean? You have to define it. And just be like, oh, well, we'll definitely take care of all the issues for our customers. You have to. That's contractual. That's the basics.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It reminds me of, I don't know where I heard this story, someone, somewhere at some point, but, in especially larger city centers when, say, law students, for example, or maybe somebody who's studying for a very career-oriented position, high-paying dollars, and they're waitressing downtown, say, at a very high-end restaurant.
Yeah.
They finish their degrees, their masters, their PhD, whatever, and they stay waitressing because the money's so good.
Right.
But what got them the job in the first place was an interview process. I had them sit at different tables,
Yep.
all kinds of different people, different backgrounds, just to see if they could carry on a conversation.
That's right.
They presented themselves well enough, you have, whether it's, beautiful women or whatever their, other things are, but they could carry on conversations with people and present themselves well enough in any social environment. So that's how they were hired.
100%. And those are those soft skills that you have to develop, and it doesn't all just come from formal training in university or whatever, right? Or a construction school. Some of it is through life experience, and some of it is just through your nature and your upbringing. But the ability to relate to people, to be able to converse, to be able to lead, it's a highly sought after skill.
I think a lot of people who have those skills at a high degree sometimes can't put their finger on those gifts. Otherwise, other people see it very clearly. But
yeah,
do you think that's true?
It is true, and
you probably experienced that yourself, even.
Yeah, I think so. And even if you're a good coach, right, you should be able to spot those in others. Spot the skills that they're good at, and then take that and harness it and redirect it.
Extract them and guide them, and
yeah, because they may not be. Let's say I've got some project managers, right, that are very technically savvy. Mm-hmm. They know specifications, they know engineering, they know the codes, but they can't talk to anybody. If there's an issue,
quite common with whenever you have somebody who's so, say, maybe your typical engineer, or even what people think of when they hear the word engineer, somebody who's very knowledgeable, technical, a lot of depth, a lot of very, very, I think right-brained. Is that right? Is it left-brained? I forget.
Yeah,
creative.
Right-brain creativity, left-brain logic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so sometimes, you might have somebody who, like, maybe they were a really good hockey player.
Yep.
Maybe they played pro hockey and they were good, really good, and then they made a good coach. And I'm sure you could think of some good examples for that.
Yeah.
But, most great hockey players, probably not a very good coach.
That's right.
It's hard to have.
Well,
then there's people in the middle, though, right? Who are good engineers, and then maybe they're very
it's knowing that
people orientated.
Like, if you know that that's your strength, right? And you're not going to change a lion into a gazelle or a gazelle into a tiger, whatever, right?
Yeah.
You just have to harness that and don't put them in those positions where they have to deal with, say, an adversarial contractor, right? So then you utilize somebody else on the team to round that out.
Because they're not going to do well there.
Right. And that person on the team that's very, say, people-oriented or conflict resolution oriented or can do those things, they may not necessarily be into the details of the technicals either.
Mm-hmm. But we were talking earlier about assembling a team that has any number of people with those different skills, right? And then you're not stuck if one person,
that's right,
decides to leave or moves on, which happens all the time, and then you just replace that kind of part of the puzzle with.
If you're building your organization or your team based on unicorns, right, and those unicorns carry very specific skills that are very unique or exclusive to them, right? When they leave, there's such a big void. So if you round that out with the rest of your team, it's better to build a team around different people's strengths around the table than it is on one person. And you need that for redundancies as well.
Can you share that story we were talking about off air earlier in line with, you have just mentioned your couple of people that you work with that are, very technical, and rightfully so, but one of your site supers on a refurbished project for a building envelope in Vancouver, where you've got 2 or 3 buildings, including a tower, where you're working right there with all the tenants, right? Because it's the exterior is being redone, and so your site super there is not like most site supers.
No, so we have a really cool remediation project going on. It's about $58,000 square feet in building envelope that we have to redo, strip everything down while there are people living in these buildings. So we're infringing on people's homes. We're going to be there for 18 to 24 months. It's a long haul, and these people still have to go about their lives.
Most of which would rather you not be there.
Yeah, most of it would rather us not be there, never want to see us again, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So you got to make the best of the situation, and then so for us, we said, okay, how do we service it? Well, we need to be all over our communication. We need to give frequent updates. We need to give periodically updates. We need those updates to be on very specific key items that are important to them, how it impacts them, their unit, their timelines, when they can come and go, sleep, work, etc. Right? And this is a generalization, but most construction personnel, they're more akin to dealing with tradesmen on site, right? As opposed to maybe a bit more finesse to deal with client-facing, say, in retail or hospitality. Yeah. So what we did was, when we built this team, we knew we had a project manager that was highly technical, very good at contract management. We had some foremen that were very good hands-on leaders that could work alongside the guys and drive it. But we needed somebody to really communicate with the clients in the building. And so when we hired this gentleman, he had never ran a massive project in his life. But what he did was, he came from home renovation side, where he was always in people's homes. And he also knew how to sell. He often dealt with the lady of the house, is what I remember him telling us.
Right, because that's not a client type that, most site supers would even want to deal with at all, right? They could deal with the biggest, most complex projects on a huge commercial institutional building and trades. But when it comes to dealing with someone's wife and their house, it's like,
yeah, you can run a $100 million project, but when it comes to a $5,000
God bless
shower,
all people's wives. I'm just saying, it's not for them. It's not for these guys.
You can get into some pretty picky details, and rightfully so. It's their home, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so for us, it's we built our team around the personalities that we needed on that table and on that.
It's very interesting that you made that decision to put that person in that position because of their background, and that even though they didn't have maybe under their belt like a lot of big projects, but how'd it go? How'd it work out? Or is it working out?
It's working out great. We're ahead of schedule right now. Cross fingers, things are still going to be fine and on tune.
And he's part of a team with a lot of support, right? So it's not like he has to know everything. Right?
His main role.
He's front facing.
Yep, he's front facing. His main role is really to motivate and energize the guys, and help kickstart the day and the week off, right? And then also interface with the clients to make sure things are contacted properly, and then also work with the engineering consultants. So he's more of a relationship communicator. That's the profile, right? He doesn't need to know, load structure bearing or the envelope detail. That's what our project managers are working on. Yeah. That's what our team's working on. One of the things I've done in all my companies is we map out everybody in the organization, top to bottom. I shouldn't say top to bottom, but all different positions, using Myers-Briggs profile. Yes. So then we can then dig in, look at the team, and who's more akin to what role, and having the right drivers in the right seats. So
Myers-Briggs. I'm just thinking of this. Is there 16 different categories?
That's right, 16 categories, 4 acronyms, and then the first one being an E or an I for extrovert or introvert. Okay. And then the last one being either the T is for turbulent, and A is, I think, assertive, say correctly. So there's some, I'd say 16, and then 2 variations of those 16s for each one. Yeah.
Very interesting.
What's your
I'm just thinking, that's what I'm thinking about. As you can see, the wheels are turning there. I think it's INF. I forget the last.
Okay.
INF.
So you're an introvert too.
Yeah, okay. I am, and I think that very people oriented, and that's kind of how I get energized. But at the same time, introverted in many ways. So like, thinking deep about things and trying to like, connect dots maybe that most other people are not fucking under the surface for. And
should do the test after. I'm going to take a stab at and guess your counsel. So I forget what the acronyms were on that, but counsel or advocate.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
Yeah, that's guess. So we'll see what that looks like.
Yeah, and what's yours?
Mine is an architect. Okay. So kind of behind the scenes. Yeah. How do they describe it? Behind the scenes, don't want the spotlight, don't need the spotlight, but just want things to happen. So
I want to create
Yeah.
all the time.
Create the environment for things to happen. And
Yeah. I think sometimes people get those labels, these different profiles. I know Myers-Briggs is a very proven model, and feel a little bit boxed in, or maybe even if they have a wrong context or understanding of the word extrovert or introvert, they might think, well, I don't like being called an introvert. It's kind of a negative connotation or something. Do you think people have that?
There's limitations to it too, because over the years I've also seen where people start identifying it as that, right? They go, oh no, well, I'm an entertainer, that's why I'm boisterous and loud and I'm outgoing. Like, well, no, you don't have to be that either, right? There's certain environments where you do need to tame yourself down and meet the etiquette of that environment, right?
I think we can all stretch our maybe natural tendencies to some degree. There's going to be a foundation always, but
there's also varying degrees of each of those traits, right? So for example, actually both of us, okay, so we're both introverts, right?
Yeah.
So I would say naturally we tend to like to spend time alone, reflecting, thinking about things and whatnot, right? Yeah. But it doesn't mean that you wouldn't get up and speak in front of other people or do something like a podcast either. No, which most people would associate to be, an extroverted skill.
Yeah. I think we all have a
varying degrees of.
Yeah, we all have our own kind of judgments when we hear those words, right?
Yeah.
It's like I was saying earlier, like what do people think when they think engineer?
Yeah.
I want to be an engineer, or what are they thinking of? What do they think when they think construction industry? I work in the construction industry. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What exactly do you do?
It's not just hard hat and hammer, right? There's a lot more to it, and some of the best salesmen I know are engineers, like from the engineering firms.
For sure, right? And we're not making any general stereotypes here. We're just having a conversation about we all kind of have those preconceived notions, stereotypical judgments,
exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting to talk about. There's any number of roads we could travel down next in this conversation.
A lot of rabbit holes we can go down.
Rabbit holes, if you want to call them. I'm sure there's some of those we could stumble across. What do you think though about the one of the things that we talked about earlier is staying focused, knowing your business, knowing the path, kind of having that structure and that your goals set, because there's so much noise in the marketplace, and in construction there's so much hype sometimes and excitement. You start to hear about all the, whether it's private development in Ontario or Nova Scotia or Atlantic provinces, and just different hot spots, and there's a lot of excitement around it. But if you don't know your niche and stick to it, it's so easy to get pulled astray, get lost, and lose your focus. And
there's a country song, and I can't remember who sings it, and the line in it says something like, I'm going to paraphrase it, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And when you think of your business, right, no matter what industry or niche you're in, right, you really have to know what that identity is. So that way, when things run dry or there's a spell in the marketplace that, a gap, especially in construction, you could go for periods with nothing, and then suddenly it's all raining cats and dogs, and you've got an influx of everything that you've wanted. You have to hold your ground. You have to know who you are as a company, and really stay focused on that niche. So who is your ideal customer and your client and your avatar? Because not everybody is, not all contractors are made for you, right? Not all subcontractors are made for you. There's culture, fit, working relationships.
I was just going to say culture. I think culture has a lot to do with it, and core values.
Yeah,
if those core values don't align, eventually it's not going to work.
Yeah, you're eventually going to butt heads on a contract, and then it becomes a bit dirty and litigious, possibly, right? There's a lot of things, but knowing who you are, as a person again, and then in your business professionally, having that identity will help you navigate. So think of it as like a lighthouse. And that lighthouse isn't moving anywhere. So if your identity as a company is, let's just use an example. I'm a vinyl window manufacturer focused on residential space and small multifamily complexes up to 4 stories only. Now I've ruled out, 90% of the market. So I've also saved time on chasing 90% of the things that would have ended up in nothing. Chasing tenders for no reason, or scopes that I don't fully understand, or scopes I can't be fully competitive on. Know your niche, get really good at hone in on the processes, and then you'll build your margin that way.
And that's a common thing probably in any industry, for people to maybe not have that clarity and focus, and then something comes along and it looks really big and shiny, maybe like a big private development here in Dartmouth or Halifax, and you're just starting out and cladding, glazing, interiors or something, and It's a little outside your reach, and maybe you take it on, hoping to get something like that. But you know, it doesn't work out, and it's all over then.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's lots of, it's a common tale, right, in this industry.
I'll give you a quick weird analogy. You've heard of Saks underwear?
Yeah, I have. I think I have some.
Yeah, me too.
Pretty comfortable
They're
stuff.
pretty comfortable stuff.
Yeah.
Good ballpark,
I'm
right?
wearing something right now, I think.
There you go. Now we know something about each other. Saks is obviously a well-known brand, right? There's a lot of marketing that's been put into it, and it's a good business. Now, let's say at the beginning of the start for Saks, somebody came along and said, hey, I've got this new brand of underwear, and this is our marketing behind it. It's going to be super creative. We're going to get out there. We're going to disrupt. We're going to expect 200, 300, 400% growth year over year. Sounds pretty hot, right? And then what if I came to you and I said, listen, I've got this brand. It's been around for about 40 years. It's consistent. Every year we do about a 3 or 4% increase with inflation, where the market goes. It's pretty plain Jane, but it's there. It's consistent. Most people would take the hot item, right? And so the hot item in this case, it's not a bad item or anything, right? It's Saks. But the other item that's boring is Fruit of the Loom. Fruit of the Loom is not big, sexy, but Fruit of the Loom prints money, cash flow, day in, day out for its owners. And so in construction, with my team, for most of our companies and projects, we stick to what our niche is, and it's not always big, sexy. We like going in to do the jobs and getting out and getting paid. Sure, would it be nice to say we did a 91-story tower in Toronto and put our name on the one? Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. But then I just read this morning that one's going through a highly litigious lawsuit to the tune of about $3 billion right now. So, and I don't know what the context is or what happened behind there, right? But it's don't always go chasing big, sexy if it's outside of your realm, right? Now, if you're a highly sophisticated curtain wall manufacturer and you wanted that window contract, yeah, sure, maybe that's up your alley, right? But for us to look at and hear about a project that's coming up, you got to make sure it's the right fit for you, your company, what you stand for, what you do, your scope, etc.
Yeah, so, especially in that realm where compared to other trades, like you get into building envelope, maybe particularly glazing, cladding too. I mean, especially these days with any number of crazy architectural panels that are out there and different install. It's not something you may only install a panel type once, and then you never install it again. Right? Yep. The material costs are 50% or more. Labor's 50%, and both are very high.
That's right.
Whereas a lot of trades, it's kind of more 30-70.
Right.
So big capital, big risk.
Big capital, big risk. So
jobs.
Know who you are and really know what you want to do and stand for.
Mm-hmm. So do you want to talk a little bit about your kind of goals and aim to acquire some building envelope companies here in Atlantic Canada, in case any are tuning in or listening? Is that something that you want to discuss? Not in great detail, but just...
Yeah, absolutely. So currently we have a portfolio of construction and manufacturing companies that support construction out in BC and Alberta. And I do spend a fair bit of time here in Nova Scotia. My kids are born and raised here, and I'm going to be here for some time. It's a beautiful place to live, and I see all the growth and the attractiveness that continues to bring people here. And there's not going to be a slowdown in infrastructure. So I am looking for either companies to partner up with, in the form of equity of some sort in there, or 100% buyout if anybody's looking to retire or exit, or maybe you've had enough of the last few years, right? It's been tough. You've enjoyed your time in the industry and you're looking to move on. Mm-hmm. I'd be more than happy to discuss that with you. Okay.
So any roofing, cladding, glazing,
anything to do with
whether it's supply and install, or maybe only install, or maybe only supply.
Supply, install, doesn't matter so long as there's a minimum revenue base. So at least 5 million revenue, the larger the better.
We'd like to welcome our newest partner here at AC Media, the Freeman Group. Freeman Group Financial works closely with business owners, professionals, and retirees as their primary custodial wealth manager. The Freeman Group is targeting contractors and people in the construction industry as they move forward. The Freeman Group is a great choice for all your financial wealth management with a local touch. We look forward to having the Freeman Group group on our podcast several times throughout the next 12 months with specific financial educational episodes. Sublier Trinity is Atlantic Canada's newest drywall and interiors contractor. Sublier Trinity is a joint effort between Trinity Energy Group, local Division 7 experts for over 17 years in Atlantic Canada, and Sublier Constructors, a highly reputable commercial interiors company based in Ottawa since 1986. Sublier Trinity has been performing work on commercial projects throughout Atlantic Canada this year, while planning for more growth in the years to come. We'd like to thank our partner, Pivot Accounting. If you're a contractor or small to medium-sized business owner in the construction industry and are looking to outsource your payroll, accounting services, and financial needs, Pivot Accounting is a great option. And that's something that, coming from your, like you said, your retail background in corporate with Walmart, talk a little bit about how, as an entrepreneur yourself, and where you're at now, not everybody fits in the corporate world, right? I mean, it's great for some people. It's security, you're part of a well-established name or brand, and it's a really good spot for some people. Other people is just, they're not going to last there, right? There's not going to be any retention with guys like yourself.
It's and over the years there's been other retailers that I've worked for. I've been with IKEA, with Hudson's Bay, a couple of defunct ones like Linens and Things and Pet Cetera, Canadian Tire, and some of these didn't end well for me. Traditionally, I got fired from some of these jobs. Yeah. At the time, I go, well, what did I do wrong? Was I not the right fit? Did I not hit my performance? But and again, you only know looking back, right? I just wasn't the right fit for this culture.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, I still keep in touch with most, if not all, of my former bosses and colleagues, especially through LinkedIn and Facebook these days. It's easy.
To me, like, I can't think of that's a huge green flag for somebody if you say, like, yeah, well, it didn't work out there, but, like, I'm still in touch with that. Like, that's not everybody can say that, right? That means that you're, actually, no matter what situation you come in and out of, like, you're leaving with relationships intact. It just, maybe it wasn't a good fit, but, like,
this is a short sidebar story. So during the industrial engineering program, my first summer there, I had to go work in a factory, and it happened to be a window factory called Gino. Gino would eventually be bought up by Plygem, and wow. And it wouldn't be for like 20 years later that I'd have a conversation with one of my business development managers, and he says, "No shit, I actually ran that plant there in Calgary. I was your boss." I said, "Wow, that's nuts." That it went full circle. Now he's a great guy. He retired a couple of years ago, and I'm a big fan of going out there to look for people from other industries and also veterans or recently retired folks to come back to the industry because they still have a lot to offer, right?
Like for training, for guidance, for mentoring,
training,
coaching.
Guidance, their network to go out and sell, their contacts, their Rolodex, yes. Right? They're
they bring a lot of contacts with them.
And you can't just immediately, you have been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years and just shut it off. You do miss the game as much as you say you want to retire, right? How much can you golf? And how much can you play with your grandkids, right? So some of those positions are created on an ad hoc basis. Some of them are part-time, some are purely commission. And this gentleman happened to be one of the VPs for Plygem that would have been my boss back then when I was doing my internship on
without you even knowing.
Window line. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting how life goes.
Fate.
So and to try to be open-minded to who you meet out there, right? Because you never know, right? You could be pounding the hammer 1,000 times, and it'll be the 1,001 time that everything hits and comes together.
Yeah,
but if you give up way before that, then you never know.
Yeah, I love that story, and it reminds me of times where, like, I've just to share a story on my end, which maybe I shouldn't do. It's supposed to be about you.
But, no, it's not.
At times where you feel lost or you're not sure, you're in transition and things aren't working out, and you just continue to pound the pavement, so to speak. And there's a guy I could have a coffee with this morning or this afternoon, just line up some conversations because but not knowing that anything was going to come out of it, but just continue to keep meeting people, like, and takes work. And sometimes those are the people that come back around a couple of years later. And I've seen it happen, like, where, I had no idea, like, why I should even really be talking to this guy. And does he even have the time
right.
But just to continue to present yourself, to think, well, there's a reason that this person is here with me now and talking to me. And like those conversations eventually sparked something that led to another seed like a couple of years down the road. And
Yeah.
so it just reminded me of, I've always thought that there's a lot of power in just sitting down with somebody. And,
Yeah, you never know, and at the very least, you may learn something from it. Maybe something not to do or something to do, right?
yeah,
You'll
that you
pick up
never thought
something.
of, you know, like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a point I was just thinking about, but it's sort of escaping my mind, and let's see if I can gather it back.
Yeah.
Um, so we talk about noise in the marketplace, and just prior to this, you and I were talking about financial advice, right?
Yes.
And of course, you tie in finances with business because for a business to be viable, you've got to be financially viable, right?
Yeah.
And I guess I know where I'm going with this. When you're out pounding the pavement, right, and you don't know how much further you have to go, you can sort of look at it like when you're going to the gym, right? You look like you're in pretty good shape. So I imagine you have a good regimen, right? But that didn't just happen overnight, right? Yeah. And you don't see that change just because you did one workout or two workouts or three workouts. It's over time. The other thing is if you miss 5 workouts, you can't just make up one workout in one full session and go 5 hours. It doesn't work that way either, right? So in business, there's a lot of consistency in small little practices that you have to do over and over and over again, right? Before the results actually yield. And too many people I see give up long before that happens, right? So you got to stay the course. And I think the other side is because we're constantly bombarded with advice and media and information these days that you really got to weed through the noise in the marketplace. Yeah. If you, let's say I wanted to become a marathon runner, right?
Our producer of the podcast.
Like our producer of the podcast,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would find
Amazing
somebody like
guy.
him who's done it, who looks the role, who clearly has done the role, and seek his advice, right? Same if I wanted to become, a bodybuilder, which will never happen, right? It's not. But you'd go to the gym and you'd find a trainer who looks the role and has done it, and again, looks like what you want to be. In business and in finance, it's tougher because there's tons of advice coming from people who have not done it, who have not been there. And I find that there's a lot of consultants in the world that are selling advice. And I don't think it's, for the most part, ill intent or anything. It's just what they know, right? But, would you rather take advice from somebody who's read 50 books or done 50 deals or built 50 companies? Yeah. So it's, you can leave that with the audience to consider that when you're taking advice from people, whether it's to grow your business or sell your business or anything else. So,
no, it's a very good point. Very good points. And one of the lines that we were talking about that I remember was like something about the name and the face of the company being too intertwined with the owner of a small business. Do you want to elaborate on that and just kind of your thoughts on it?
And I guess part of it is could be a pride thing or could be an ego thing or could just be over time this is naturally how that person's worked out, right? That if you become too associated with the name and face of your business, but you are integral to the operations of that business, right? Like oftentimes in construction, small, medium-sized companies, the estimating is very important because that's the beginning of whether you're going to make or lose money, right off the bat. It's held very closely with the owner. Even the project management to some degrees, right? For small, medium-sized companies, though. And if you don't let go of that, you're not going to allow people to grow. You're not going to develop anybody.
Like micromanage, you mean? Continue?
Yeah, micromanage or even just not be able to trust others to run with that role and grow in it, right?
It's hard for people when they've committed, their whole life to get something off the ground to let go.
Yeah. And in certain those key roles, if you're not there, say you went on vacation or you got sick or finally you decide to retire, right? Does the business truly go on or did that all go out the window with you? Yeah. That's one side of it. And the other side is you stunt creativity and growth for the people who work with you, right? You gotta, wages and stuff being all fair, having a positive environment, culture and all that. People yearn for growth and development. And it doesn't mean that they have to climb a ladder. It could be laterally, right? It could be just new skills to help them in their current situation. So being tied to the name and the face, I'm a big fan of being redundant so that my goal is to create no value to my company in the day-to-day. So in fact, actually, if I insert myself in some of the meetings that happen day-to-day, I actually take away from the team. Yeah. Maybe certain things won't be discussed with full clarity or transparency, or they feel that because I'm in the room that maybe now my authority overrides them, which I don't want to do either, right? So I don't want to erode other people's credibilities, like my whether it's the business manager or the project managers or estimators or superintendents, right? If I'm going on a site, it's a quick PR visit, and it's hey man, take me for a walk through your site and see what's going on, right? It's not, I'm not here to hound on you. I'm not here to walk the 4-foot section and
it's not like
beat
there's
you over. It's not
huge threat mentality when they see you on site once every 6 months, whatever it is.
Because you're the expert on your site, not me. You should know
goes
your
back
site,
to servant leadership too, in a sense, because like you're hiring these people because they're better at you at that, really. I mean, at the end of the day.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's a job that, maybe you could do it. Maybe you could do it just as good, but you hiring that person to fill that role because they're better at that than you, right? That's what I think. A lot of people don't think that way when it comes to, like, you said yourself, you don't like the term employee.
Yeah.
But when you switch it on its head about being a servant leader and being someone who has the intuition to kind of put things in place and vision and those kind of things, then all you're doing is just enabling everybody to, once it doesn't always work out, obviously, but when you fill those roles, you're just enabling them, right?
Yeah.
At the core of what you're doing is just enabling them.
Exactly. And you're setting it up so that there is a succession plan redundancy, so that if you do, take off to Maui for a marathon that you wanted to be part of for a long time and train for, that you don't have to worry and stress that every little phone call needs to go through you to be vetted. You got to allow people to make decisions. So, that's definitely important to growing a company.
100%. What about hiring from other industries? I know we were talking about, obviously a hot topic is labor shortage across the country and in many other countries, and just in this industry now with so much happening, and kind of maybe in a shift of the next 5 to 7 years, a lot of folks are retiring in upper management or in skilled trades. Can I say trilled scades? skilled trades positions and on-site management positions and whatnot, and just having to fill the gap with maybe immigration is a big way to solve that, and obviously that's part of your background and your parents, so maybe that combined with like hiring people from other industries, which you came from another industry where maybe some people's thinking is like, what are you doing hiring someone from a retail background to be in this position? That doesn't make any sense. Talk a little bit about those two items.
There's a lot of avenues you can go down with that. I guess first is you got to recognize that today's workforce is changing. So even if there wasn't an abundance of labor and manpower out there, right? Some of it that was applicable or effective 10, 15, 20 years ago might not be effective today. I like some of the old school superintendents, right? Love to be on the slab for the first few hours, really brash, really get things done, set some targets, set some goals, follow up. Like I actually love that style. But for some of our workforce today, it doesn't resonate. Right, wrong, and different, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. So if you're after a result or a productivity goal, then you've got to find ways to work differently. And being that the workforce is becoming more inclusive, diverse, etc., not just in the traditional sense of gender promotion, etc., right? But more in just different personalities, different characters, different skill sets coming in. Mm-hmm. So you have to be open to that. And the other part is with technology and AI that's coming in hot and heavy, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of that work now is going to be alleviated. So I think that presents an opportunity to take soft skills that are transferable from other industries. So if your company, let's say, really prides itself on service being communication, being tight controls, being the way that your job sites are ran from a cleanup standard, housekeeping point of view, etc. Like, let's say that was your thing, right? You've defined those as the skill sets in which you're going to hire for. Now you can go look for that, right? As opposed to kind of shotgunning the old approach of posting the same posting that everybody else has, the same qualifications, same everything. Like, that's very surfacey. So you need to dig a bit deeper, and then that's how you build your company and your culture.
Yeah, and a lot goes into that too. Like if you have an existing company of a certain nature with a certain structure and enough management staff and knowledge and background and experience, like where someone gets plugged in with the soft skills, and it's not going to matter if they don't know every detail about a couple of these technical items, because there's plenty of support for that, right? And you know that when you're hiring, it's like, if the soft skills, if the attitude is there, if they can fill that side, then I'm not worried about the other stuff, right? It was not everybody hires in that fashion or thinks that way.
No, and so I was saying a few minutes ago that my goal is to make myself obsolete in my company, right? But one of the things I still to this day involve myself in is with new hires. Could be someone that's a new apprentice or a new project manager. I'll take the time to meet them just to give them an introduction to the company and what we have going on and the greater picture at hand, right? But this reminds me of a gentleman we hired a few days ago. It's our project manager. Comes from a very strong background, good engineering firm, ran big projects. And part of his training program that we mapped out was for the first 6 weeks, he's on the tools with the guys. And you're going to be jackhammering. You're going to be on the ground applying PMMA.
But also kind of like yucking it up with the guys,
Yes.
Getting to know them, joking
Exactly.
around, and by week 2 you'll be just laughing it up.
Oh, exactly. And initially, I remember when we had rolled this part of our strategy, the guy said, "Well, that's very expensive to be putting a project manager on the tools, or I've ran projects before. Why do I need to do this?" I said, well, one is to get to know our company a little bit better and our industry and how it works, the little nuances. But the other that's even more important is I need you to forge these relationships with the guys on site, the foremen, the superintendents, the trades, because when you're going to become the project manager running the site now, if you have that established relationship, that credibility, that respect, right, it's a lot easier to get things done than it is to just set some simple productivity targets and say, here's a critical path. So having that relationship goes a long ways, because there will always be problems. It's construction, right? There's no doubt I don't think there's ever such thing as a perfectly smooth 100% project. It's how do we go about solving those issues? And it's such a people-oriented world that you need leaders to be able to rise up. So you've got your own employees or associates or team members. You've got sub-trades, you've got sub-subs, you've got the generals, you've got the consultants, you've got the owners, you've got the bonding company, you've got the bank, you've got a lot of people to deal with, right?
A lot of different kinds of people too.
Yeah, a lot of different personalities from all walks of life. So to be able to deal with people...
well, just to navigate that is more than a full-time job. And I think maybe to tie in what you just said, and I'm not saying that you're concerned about this, coming from an industry where it's still it's hard work, right?
Yes.
Site guys have a certain level of respect. I'm saying guys, it's
Yeah.
guys and girls is the proper thing that I should say. And when it comes to like the statement you made, I'm building this company so I can be obsolete. Let's say not everybody has that same ability to think that way, but that's really the way that it has to be done in order to continue a company at a certain size to carry forward, right? And so you might not have the understanding of the 50 guys on the site or the 10, 20, 30 PMs and site supers.
Right.
And they may be thinking in their heads every day, what's this guy do?
Yep.
Does that bother you sometimes?
No, it doesn't. Because
it can't. But I mean, I think, it's well, I should just let you answer it. It's a thought more than a question. It's
there's obviously there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and if I think back to when I was younger, right, and I was working on the tools, and you'd get a site visit from some higher up, right, and you'd always wonder, like, some people are like, oh well, it's just head office, it's just Toronto coming here or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I always viewed it as like, man, I'm gonna grab my clipboard. I'm going to go walk with this guy. I'm going to see if I can just poke in and listen to it. Oftentimes they're like, no, you're not allowed in our walks or meetings, right? But it didn't matter because I thought it was a good opportunity to learn from the guys. And depending on who it was, right? Some people you can find they're very approachable. You can see that.
And some people just aren't. It's just very authoritarian. It's very dictatorship, and it's you climbing the ladder because you want the power and control. And that's going to always be like that, right? It's like the wheat with the chaff.
So you got to set the ego aside, and I can tell you without a doubt that I know every name of every team member that works for me and their wives' names. So there's very few things that I put emphasis on because We're building a culture to empower other people. So we allow different team members in different divisions to focus on a few key things. So for example, estimating, right? You can go down a whole host of rabbit holes and be constantly distracted or busy. But what it comes down to for the guys, as I said, there's really only like 2 or 3 things for each, right? So for the estimating, it's like, hey, what is our current pipeline that we have? Influx for requests, our strength of our request pipeline, and then the strength of the amount of tenders that are outstanding and our current active work in progress. Those are the things you guys should be concerned about. Don't worry about all the other things. Those are distractions, right? So we treat that to every division of the company: finance, fabrication, project management. When it comes to myself, right, and my general managers, there's really 2 things we're concerned about. It's net income and morale. Those are the 2 things that are near and dear to my heart. All the other stuff, that's what the team is designed to. They can take care of it, right? Each of us have to do our piece. And
because those are your 2 pillars, right? If the morale's not good, then well, what's the point? I mean, but if net income's not good, then what's the point? Right?
You have to be financially sustainable as a business to keep going, of course. And then the morale of the team. How do you build a team if you don't have engagement? So my grandfather came from the military way back in the day, and when I was young, he told me a thing. His advice was, when you're getting working, right? He goes, if you lead from the front and you don't have the trust yet, don't worry about the enemy shooting you. Somebody in your team's going to shoot you in the back. If you lead from the back, you'll have no idea what's going on in the front line, right? You'll get misinformation, or you get no information, or whatever. You got to work alongside your guys and lead alongside. Once you've established that, you've got the trust, the credibility, now you can step back and take other various leadership stances. Whether it's leading in the front because you want to prove a point and you're rallying the troops to a battle cry like William Wallace, or you got to take a step back and be able to see the big picture and the broad strategy at hand.
So, and knowing when to do either, being capable of doing either is
exactly. And to be able to be fluid between those 3, you got to have trust in the relationship. And trust is built on 2 core things. It's, you have trust of character, in which your people will be able to look at you and know that you'll do the right thing in their best interests, in the company's best interests, etc., to be responsible. And then trust of competency. So you have to know your lane or your trade or your craft, so that you take care of your scope. So you can have one or the other. It wouldn't matter. Like my mother, okay, I trust her with my life. I'll leave my kids with her. I'll leave whatever, right? Would I trust my mom to run my business? No. So that's the competency thing, right? But you need both of them depending on the situation in order to have effectiveness and the buy-in from people.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Importance of mentors. You've got some in Atlantic Canada yourself.
Yes, I've got a couple of really good mentors.
That we need to mention names, but just that's an important thing, right? I mean,
yeah,
you're not gonna get where you've gotten or further or anyone without people who are willing to give you their time. It's so important, right?
Yeah, people willing to give you their time, and they've done things that. And it's important. You got to find the right mentor, right? So
yeah, that's right. Not everyone's a good fit, right?
Yeah, not everybody's a good fit, personality-wise, etc. But also, not everybody's in the giving mood, because it is time, right? So you have to find ways to reciprocate that time back. So it's not just all about work. Maybe it's we enjoy some cigars together, we enjoy scotch together, we go golfing together, all that, right? It's got to be reciprocated, but. Having a mentor who's been there, done that is going to help so much, continues to help so much, because there's already sage wisdom mistakes that they've made that now I can avoid.
Yeah. It's like the youngest sibling who, we all make the mistakes. And thinking of my younger sister here now, and
that's right.
She gets to learn from all of them, and she's just
she's got it so easy. She's so much smarter than all of us. Yeah. No. So just having those mentors to guide and teach you. And I think back to ever since I was young, there's always somebody that made a difference in my life, whether it was like my football coach, Robert Stevenson from John Barsby Secondary. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
I'll send this off to you. You can listen to it.
Yeah.
But we're talking about back from 1997, and I still remember that man to this day, and I still phone him for sage advice once in a while.
Yeah, wow.
And it's really quite something. And there's been those people along the ways, right? Different mentors for different aspects in your life, but you got to make sure that they're aligned with your goals. So, we don't need a mentor to teach us how to shotgun beer and drink and make sure that we're the last man standing at the lower deck either, right? It's got to be aligned to our goal, unless that's your business,
Unless
and that's
what
okay.
you're into.
Yeah, unless that's your business and you're into that. So that's very important. And then so for me, it's also important to have a mentor culture within the company too. So pairing up our team members as part of their career development to mentor others also gives them a chance to learn more when they teach something back to somebody, and also to kind of cross train guys that normally wouldn't work together to touch base and spend time. So
let's talk about a little bit about immigration, bringing in workers, skilled workers in different capacities. What's your thoughts on that? And I'm going to assume that you see that as being a big factor in, I'm not going to say solving a labor shortage, but just with the opportunity, right? And I think that's something that needs to be capitalized on, right? It's plain and simple. For a lot of companies, it's almost a necessary thing.
We have to.
Point.
And outside of our industry, the food industry started it before we did, right? And places like Tim Hortons and Meza, and I love Meza, great place to eat, right? But they've been able to fine tune that model, and they started early because I think in that industry, out of necessity, you tend to pay lower than other industries like construction, right? You can make a lot more money in construction, whether on the tools or in the office, than you can in most retail and hospitality businesses.
For sure.
So out of necessity, where are you going to find dishwashers, etc.? Now for us, you've got baby boomers retiring. You've got this push since COVID that a lot of folks can work from home. Some have decided to become remote workers or lifestyle entrepreneurs or whatever it is, right? Yeah. You can do a lot of things online now. Yeah. And so that pool is shrinking as a whole. So naturally we can say, well, let's bring in more people. Well, hold on. You're also competing with the rest of the world. You're competing with Australia. You're competing with the US. You're competing with the UK. They all need people.
So then the question becomes, well, why come to Ontario? Why come to Nova Scotia, for example?
It's got to be on the lifestyle. It's got to be the whole package. And it's the I had this conversation with one of our member of parliaments recently, right? And I said, salary and all that being aside, and giving them the permanent residency to Canada is one thing, but we got to sell on the whole package. Why come here? Look at the lifestyle that you can have out here.
Look at the green space.
How do you raise your kids, right? The environment, part of the reason
it's kind of an urban-rural mix too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've experienced that yourself. That's a big.
And it's got to be, and it is to a degree, and we can keep building on it. But a world-class place with world-class venues, with good people,
Not to say
good
that
infrastructures.
it doesn't have that as well.
Yeah. But we can continue to build on it, and
even the architecture of the buildings, that's a factor in work here from some provinces in Atlantic Canada, where like the complexity of the jobs becomes definitely a factor. It's way more freedom, I think, with the design or the funding, whether it's government funding or private developers that are at a certain level where they're able to design buildings that you're just not going to see or you hadn't seen maybe before.
Yeah, it's so we've got to have a package to attract people, because we need that in order to just sustain what we have, let alone grow it, right? All industries. You hear it all the time on the news, shortage of nurses, shortage of doctors. And for us, we hear it because we know it, shortage of tradesmen, and everything else. I mean, we've had restaurants that have had to close early in the last little while because of, again, staff shortages, right? So we need people to come work, but we also need to do it in a methodical way where you integrate people into society, right?
Like a holistic approach.
That's right. Like, I'm all for, diversity and having various cultures here, but there's also a culture of Canada as a whole. And more importantly, right, in the Maritimes, it's got its own subculture, right? That's got to be promoted. You got to integrate people in there. You can't have segments either. So I think that's how we'll grow our society, we'll grow our businesses, and our construction industry. But that's a big nut to take on that requires not just industry, but government support and other entities, etc.
Why do buildings have vinyl windows on the 14th floor?
I don't know. That's a question that I don't understand here, so I thought maybe you might know.
I don't have an answer for
I know out in other parts of Canada, beyond a certain floor, whether it's the 4th or 6th floor, right? You have to use metal systems that are more rigid, And especially if you have wider openings, or you have window walls where it spans slab to slab, etc. Right? But we have some of the harshest climates in Canada. Our NAFS calculator, if you punch it in, right, your wind load is higher. We have horizontal rain that's famous, but
high moisture.
Yeah. So I just thought maybe the standards are different. I don't know, or maybe the practices are different or interpreted different. But
and are these buildings like that? That are older buildings that were built here some time ago, or are these still being designed this way on the new builds?
It's still being designed this way
for cost reasons.
I don't know if it's cost reasons or whatever influences that result in that. But no, it's just a thought. Sidebar question.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you want to mention? I mean, we could talk for hours. Obviously, we've been talking a lot before we went on air and probably after.
Oh yeah.
But
for sure.
Anything else with you being here that you want to get out there to our listeners, or that we haven't touched on, whether it's a topic in the industry or for any of the things that you have going on with your partners?
Well, first off, congratulations on 1 year of your podcast. That's a huge achievement because considering the statistics we've heard, right, that a lot of podcasts give up long before that, right? So
Thank you.
Keep going,
Appreciate
keep doing
that.
what you're doing and spreading out the message.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing, and but I think important to our listeners to tell other people about the podcast, and especially if you're in construction. Let your peers know, let your colleagues know about the show, and if we can get more people talking about it, right? Because the problems that we have facing us coming up, right? Such as labor shortage, right? It's bigger than any one of us can handle, and I look at the market from an abundant point of view where there's more than enough projects for everybody. You figure out your lane, you can go after it. There's more than enough work in business. So
and even competitors can benefit from each other.
That's right. Even competitors can benefit and help each other out on various things. So spread the word, and let's build this together, because in the end, it's really our home we're building, right? So
awesome. Amin Tran, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
We'd like to thank our longtime sponsor, Cook Insurance. Cook is your trusted insurance broker in Atlantic, Canada for 50 years. The Cook team opens up opportunities for contractors by proactively managing the requirements of their bond facility. They expand levels of support and negotiate preferred rate, all while prioritizing ease of doing business. A Navicord partner since 2020, Cook is one of the largest construction brokers in Canada and offers national strength with a local touch. Whatever your insurance needs are, Cook has you covered.
The team at Atlantic Construction Podcast has been able to build a strong relationship with the folks at FCA Surety. FCA Surety is strongly invested in supporting the Atlantic construction marketplace and helping contractors to build their businesses. We highly recommend them.